Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at Hikvision. We're going to cover today one of our very interesting topics. My name is Oliver David. I'm the Regional Sales Manager here in Central Ontario. And thanks for your time. We are going to get into some juicy topic called HeatPro. And it's going to cover the interesting thermal lineup of our products and the latest edition, which is VCA 3.0. The professional protection that's made simple for you guys. That's what we're going to cover and how it works. So hopefully you have used some of the thermal in the past, but if you haven't, the question is, what are thermal cameras? So I'm just going to show you a small video while I talk to you about it, which you can see on the screen. So every body, every object in this world, emits a detectable amount of thermal radiation. And that is what is captured using this long-range infrared thermal cameras that we have in our lineup. And we can see some of this through our invisible, through our eyes, and we need the technology to do so because sometimes a scene is very complicated, like complete total darkness, smokes or haze or fog or snow, depending on which part of the world you live in, right? So it's definitely good to have additional technology to help us determine who's there, what's there, and much more information from a scene. So here are some of the typical scenarios. If you look at the top to bottom, you're going to see 100 foot away, strong backlight, regular camera, what it looks like. And when you don't have a thermal camera, you don't get to see much, as in the scene on the top left. Whereas at the bottom left over here in this column, you'll see the thermal camera, which is our bullet camera with a 6mm range of thermal activity that's capturing a video content analysis of a human being and a vehicle in the same scene. So virtual line of fence, line crossing, intrusion detection, whatever analytic you have, this camera can process along with the AccuSense technology. It's basically saying, hey, there's some activity here. Whereas the top one, you didn't see any activity, no event being triggered off. Same thing here when you're looking at further distance away, same camera, same lens. Once again, the thermal catches in very dark lighting a person crossing the line cross detection. And then when you have foliage or really thick bushes and shrubs around the house, or perimeter of some place, building, and it's very hard to capture what's over there. Is it a raccoon? Is it a human being? Is it some kind of activity? These cameras here, the thermal cameras, based on the thermal heat detection, can find out what is happening in that scene. Our country of Canada, obviously, we have a lot of rain. We have a lot of snow, depending where you live, Vancouver or Halifax, Toronto. But if you look at the scenario when there's heavy snow and heavy rain, some of the captures of the optical lenses, based on color view or whether it be light over there, you still can't see much. But when you have thermal, as you can see in these different scenarios here, you get to see even people far in the distance. Some of the jewelry stores actually use fog detection. So if there's smoke or fog, you can use thermal cameras to detect what's actually happening inside, or you can use it for in case there is a fire hazard and then you want to know exactly what's happening inside the situation. For hunting, for wildscapes, for places far away in the distant areas, you can use this camera with different lenses. We even have a PTZ version of it that you can actually see far in the distance. Here are some of the models that we have that cover thermal HeatPro lineup. So you'll see the turrets mentioned here with a very wide area to cover with the number 2. And if you notice, the letter T actually means it has thermography, which means it can actually detect how much temperature you have in terms of a setting, an environment, how hot it's getting. And then without the T, you have the regular HeatPro perimeter protection cameras. So the temperature ones are really good for fire prevention, and then the non-T versions are really good for perimeter protection. And I'm going to go into details about how it all works. As you can see, resolutions are not the same as optical. because they're thermal, and our HeatPro lineup is the value series, so you don't need extremely high resolution because you want to see the thermal image. This is a bit more about our cameras in the HeatPro lineup. Obviously, 2 lenses, just so people don't get confused. 2 lenses, takes 2 channels on a recorder, and 1 cable of PoE to power the camera. So you got the benefit of cheap installation for labor, but the benefits of 2 cameras coming in, and you're covering a scene with both optical and thermal. So 4 megapixel is our optical lens, which is right here, and then the thermal lens basically will have that resolution of 256 by 192. And key note to those who are in the thermal world, we use this 12 micrometer module, which is right in the middle of the bandwidth of what most manufacturers use in the thermal range. Absolutely, something to consider is we have everything taken care of when it comes to temperature in Canada, and we have different rated temperature cameras, minus 20, minus 40, depending on what you need. Just let us know. Obviously, audio alarm input output. So if you have to put it somewhere where you have a IP siren, we have those speakers available for deterrence. The cameras also come with live guard, so they have a speaker and a siren and a strobe light that flashes. So you get the best of everything in one camera. IK10, IP67. Now moving forward, people have asked this question. When you look at these cameras, the analytic portion of it, where you determine there's a human being or a vehicle, this is done based on the VCA of the camera, the AccuSense technology, which is built in, and the best distance, the coverage, where you can actually determine the analytic to do a line cross detection or intrusion. There's a chart. So all our cameras have a data sheet, and in the data sheet, you can actually see this chart mentioned. And just for references, we have put some over here. We're using the 2 millimeter lens, which is very wide field of view, but then your analytic is 17 meters for human detection and 50 meters for a vehicle, so on and so forth till the very last one, which is a 10 millimeter further away, very narrow field of view, but the analytic can determine and trigger off the human or vehicle at very long distances. If you've got questions, obviously, about how to configure this, we have our whole team, our sales staff available for questions, and our design specialists all across Canada who can actually help you build this. So the juicy part, what's HeatPro VCA 3.0? So this thermal cameras, HeatPro has been in Canada for a while, but now they've developed the technology and included a new analytical video content analysis 3.0. What HeatPro has taken this to the next level is when you've got a scene and you've seen over here, it's capturing all kinds of events. The benefit of HeatPro is using bispectrum analysis. What that means is now the cameras are actually taking advantage of the optical lens to add more analysis onto what the thermal lens is capturing. So say the thermal lens was doing AccuSense, it could determine with certain lighting, we can see there's a human being, a vehicle. But in certain scenes, based on certain applications, the thermal lens is not good enough. Sometimes you call them false positives or false alarms. To eliminate those false alarms, bispectrum analysis uses the optical lens to add on more analysis of AccuSense to see if there's a human being or vehicle present in that scene. Second advantage is self-learning calibration. So the cameras before in the older version, had to be manually calibrated, whereas right now it's automatically done and simplified, especially when it comes to how you configure it and calibrate it for the height of a person. So we'll get into that detail later on in a technical seminar, but that's one of the added values. Bispectrum analysis, self-learning, and last but not the least is a distillation model. This is more like our deep learning of our cameras. So we use some of the deep learning models based on the large language model that Hikvision uses to get to the camera to perform in such a way that it takes all this information, classifies what exactly is a human being, what's a vehicle, determines the rule, and then sets off the triggered alarm. So these are the 3 highlights of what VCA 3.0 do, and we'll explain to you in a few minutes. A little bit more technical for those people who are listening in. You got the video sequence, which basically means you got your scene, your field of view, and then the camera will now take the object and start detecting, oh, there's an object in the scene. Doesn't know what it is, but because of the new bispectrum analysis, it will do an extra algorithm, combine the two, the thermal and the optical, and say, oh, this looks like it's more of a human being, not a raccoon or an animal or an inanimate object. Then it will go ahead and do the next step, which is object tracking. After it tracks the object, finds out where it's going, crosses the line or not, then it classifies. And this is where the added classification comes in from the bispectrum analysis to say, hey, yes, this was actually a vehicle that crossed the line, not the person. And then it classifies that as an event by putting in a rule in the algorithm page and then setting up the alarm based on whatever the event was set up. So regardless of any low temperature difference, because of the fact that you have two lenses working together to give you the benefit of a less false alarm, it double checks what was done, and you get a much more accurate result from bispectrum analysis of VCA 3.0. Moving forward, I'm going to show you a little bit more about conventional version of the minimal temperature difference scenarios and the new bispectrum, so you can see exactly how it's an improvement from the old and the new. Old on the left, new on the right. Thermal image, far away, seems horrible, wherever the situation is. But look on the right. As soon as it determined using the bispectrum analysis, in the back end, you can see it determined the rule and set off the triggered alarm saying, yeah, this is actually classified as a person. Whereas here on the left, if you see on the left, it did not classify that person coming in the intrusion detection area. So much more accurate readings thanks to the bispectrum analysis of VCA 3.0. Second portion is self-learning calibration. Again, once again, use the same scene. It's capturing a field of view, object detection, detected an object, then it used bispectrum analysis. Okay, it started tracking the object, and now it says, okay, I need to calibrate this. So in order for us to do calibration back in the day, it was a very tedious process of figuring out the height of the object, so on and so forth. Right now, all this is done and simplified because the way it's done, it's automatically calibrating it. So self-learning calibration has been upgraded with two more technologies, bispectrum as well as the self-learning. This gives us the benefit of time saving. So when you're there, because of the self-learning, deep learning algorithm, calibration is shortened in time frame, you save time, and you get better results. So this is the summation of HeatPro VCA 3.0. What are the benefits of this? You've got a situation here, traditional, very traditional. Back in the day, I want to cover the area. I'd put two passive infrared detectors, cameras for video verification, then a light, audible alarm, a siren, whatever the case is. You go so on and so forth. All this equipment's put in. Then you send it to the alarm panel. The alarm panel goes to the monitoring station, right? Very ideal solution. Worked in the past. Right now, you substitute all that with two HeatPro cameras because it has the built-in live guard. Don't need sirens if you really need to, or attach one if you want to that just connect to it. And it has the thermal imagery that gives you the long VCA for any intrusion and the optical doing for surveillance for video camera, all built into one, right? Here for this example, they picked the 2mm, which gives you the 90-degree coverage. So you save a lot on how much it is because it's very short distance. So your house is a perfect scenario. So any high-end home that has bushes, shrubs, hedges, fences, and forest at the back, or whatever the case is, this is a much better solution than this traditional CCTV because you get the best of both worlds, right? And less false alarms. Now, we'll talk later on how we can send all this to a monitoring station, but that is the ideal solution. Another situation here, picture a school lot or a playground area where you have like a community center, and back in the day, or a manufacturing plant, whatever the case scenario is, we would use photoelectric detectors for those long distant runs to figure out what's happening in the perimeter. Right now, you substitute that with a cost-effective HeatPro, little bit larger lens, probably the 7mm or 10mm, and you cover the entire perimeter of this with video and thermal VCA analytics. So now you have a full protection of the perimeter. along with LiveGuard. So you send all those events to your app, to your NVR, or to the monitoring station, and you're covered. So talking about monitoring station, the monitoring station is a very key factor to complete the solution. Most of us in the security world have used cameras, then rely on the end user to go and check to see what happened. But the most efficient way to do it in today's world, with all the situation of how bad it is getting out there, is to get an alarm monitoring station, especially when it comes to video monitoring, involved in your region. Talk to your regional sales manager. They can probably hook you up with the right monitoring center. We have our own. It's called Hike Central Regard. It's part of the Hike Central Professional module that you can get, and our regional sales managers can explain to you. But the benefit of it is you've got all these. We have alarm detectors, right, from various brands. We have our own for Hike. It's called the Axe Home, and it's basically our intrusion. And you can use that. You can use third-party alarms. You send it over to a monitoring station, and then they will be able to actually get all the event notifications sent from the HeatPro cameras, either through our NVR or directly sent over to the monitoring station. So now you have a full-blown, fully managed monitoring of your premise, right? So your perimeter protection is completely done and it's foolproof. So this is the full solution. External alarm modules. So some of you must be thinking, hey, what about the third-party stuff, right? How do we get that involved? We do have an Ethernet I/O module, so you can have our cameras run through that and then go to the wired alarm panel, because we have different formats that it can actually send out to, which industry standard in Canada, and that will be sent to the alarm monitoring stations. Whether it be video or alarm monitoring, you could have both, right? So this is the advantages of using our HeatPro cameras, either with the NVR or without the NVR, and our Ethernet I/O module that we can sell you in case you have a third-party alarm detector and then a monitoring station that you were working with in the past. We have a lot of successful cases in the world. This one's in Brazil. They used one of the cameras here that is a 10 millimeter, which is most of the time used to see long distances. In this case, they used over 1,005, almost 1,500 of these cameras to protect the entire perimeter. And as you can see, everything runs through Hike Central Professional. So our Hike Central Professional can handle all that volume. And this is a very successful case in 2023. So that's one of the things there. In Malaysia, they used the same concept, similar kind of cameras, and then they basically had a lot of bad weather to deal with, especially the rainfall and all that stuff in Malaysia. And then they had line crossing set up. The best part about it is, even if you don't have a fence in a warehouse or wherever you are, in whichever part of Canada you are, or wherever you're listening, you don't need a fence. You can have a virtual fence created with these cameras. Virtual fence created with so much more accuracy based on the bispectrum analysis that we have through the VCA 3.0. So I would really encourage you, if you're looking at your next project and you want perimeter protection, definitely consider using a HeatPro camera. Talk to your sales guys. When it comes to you get comfortable down the road, you can always consult this web link here. We can send this to you, and you can actually design your entire project to showcase, with field of views and everything. We will have another seminar in the future with Justin, who's going to talk about all the technical stuff. Very interesting for all your technicians to actually attend this, because they'll actually go into details and show you how this is all taking place. If for now you want to start off, reach out to the sales guys, and we will do all the designs with the system design specialists to make sure your lives are easy and you get the pilot projects done for yourself. Now, we have a very important case to share. In Canada, we had our own RSM, Louis, from BC, and his customer, Riser Technology. And I'd like for you to hear a live testimonial about what was implemented. So go ahead.
I'm happy to host today Mr. Paul from Riser Technology. He is one of our top dealer in BC, and he's doing a lot of Hikvision products, focusing in Hikvision, thermal cameras. He done a lot of projects across the BC, and we're very delighted to have him here today with us. Thank you very much for being with us today for this small session.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm glad. Thank you.
You do a lot of Hikvision projects and you're focusing in thermal technologies. So you can tell us about why do you choose thermal technologies and how do you feel about using and continue using thermal technology for other projects that you have?
Yeah, the thermal technology is really good for these days because we need some kind of these big installations for the big areas, and the optical cameras cannot be do the such functions which we need from there. So, like a big area like a trucking yards and the other locations, we need a thermal cameras there, so that can go longer. So it can also work in the really very dark areas too.
Where do you use those cameras in more specific area?
Yeah, we already have many clients like in trucking yards or farm areas, construction site, cannabis growing farms. So, like if an example for trucking yards, we have many clients. They have a very big trucking yards, more than a 15 acres or 20-acre trucking yards, and they want to protect their perimeter fence area. So we use thermal camera there to protect the perimeters area. The best part is it's really work in the totally dark side. If there's no light, it's worked very well on there. And also, if we talk about the construction site, we use as a perimeter protection on the construction site. Is also we use for the fire prevention. There's a really good feature for that. And the camera can trigger the alarm if the temperature go higher from specific point. So the customer will alert and he will prevent whatever action take. He will prevent the fire. So that's a really good thing. Similar in the cannabis side, we do the same for the perimeter protection and for the fire preventions for these cameras.
We have in Hikvision a lot of features in thermals camera, and which one of those probably you like because it looks like you're using them a lot for a secret. So what is the secret sauce in top of the Hikvision?
The best part is for Hikvision thermal camera, one is a really cost effective. And the other part is this camera comes with a dual channel with the optical and thermal channel both. So we will save a cost for there too. So single camera can work as optical as thermal, both images. And it's really easy to install. The configuration is so easy. We just have to do 3-4 steps. Just enable the VCA and target direct the lines and make the targets as human and vehicle, and it's done. So it's that's why we're using the Hikvision thermal cameras. Easy to install and cost effective.
Between all the models that we have, probably you have some specific models that you like to use all the time.
We are using mostly HeatPro cameras. That's a model, the TD2628, with the 3 mm lens, 7 mm lens, or 10 mm lens. Depends on the installations. If we have a big area, the large area, we probably use the 10 mm lens that covers the more area. And if we have some small area installation, then we use a 3 mm and 7 mm lens. So mostly we use the HeatPro series with the TD2628 series.
A lot of options that we have from Hikvision thermal cameras and different models. But if we compare the Hikvision Color View version 3, which has been released recently, with thermal cameras, so which one you prefer your projects?
No, both are good. It depends upon the installations. We also use a color series camera, and I love those cameras too. They're really good cameras. But again, it depends upon the site's requirement and installations. Some sites we do a mix and match cameras. We do the color before inside the yard, and for the outside perimeter protection, we use our HeatPro cameras. So both have a good cameras, but as if we talk about the perimeter protection area on the big sites, where the light is there's no light or very less light, we rely on thermal camera then.
Perfect. So I would say that you are very satisfied with our thermal cameras, and we're happy to have you on more projects. So how is the support and maintenance, and how is your satisfaction in with us in as in Hikvision?
Service is very good. Support service is good. Support is good, and the sales team is good. Right now, I'm sitting in the your Vancouver office, and it's very easy accessible to us. If we need any kind of help on training or maybe a sales training or a service or a technical training, is easy accessible here.
Would I say 1 to 10 how much you are satisfied with our thermal cameras?
I will go 10 out of 10.
I thought 11. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louis, for that insight. Thank you for the feedback from Riser Technologies. hopefully that gives you, everybody listening in, such a vivid idea of how comprehensive these cameras are and how you can use them in different areas. Now, they were mentioning something about the thermography lineup, which is the temperature change detection for fire prevention. So we're going to dive into that because we didn't do that. It's all about perimeter before. But remember the T in the part number. So this is the key here. The T basically means thermography, which is used for fire prevention. So these cameras are actually CNPP certified, which is basically your fire prevention certification that you need. Other brands that specialize in this also have it. So we actually have that certification. And we also cover the same concept, 2 lenses, 1 thermal, 1 optical. So you get the best of both worlds. But the difference is the temperature. So the previous model had a plus or minus 8 degrees Celsius. So it's not really focused on the temperature detection to measure it accurately, whereas this one gives you a much better accurate reading when it comes to the analytics. Also, there are additional feature benefits in VCA 3.0, which is the reflect light filter, which means when you put it in a solar farm, for example, and you have the sun shining in, it actually can reflect the light, put a filter on it so it doesn't count as a heat source. A forklift filter, when you have it in a warehouse for waste management, a lot of forklifts going in there, they're heated up. It can actually know this is a forklift and eliminate that to count it as a heat source, and so on and so forth, right? So we'll go look into this. Obviously, different scenarios where you need the temperature to be monitored to give you an accurate reading, / give you an event notification when there's an issue. So high accuracy is required sometimes for cold storage areas or a data server, rack mount, whatever the case is. Sometimes you want to not just have a line drawn, because you can have one line drawn, or you can have 10 different areas that you can actually account for measuring, or 10 different points. So you can decide how you want it to be flexible enough to measure whatever you want the temperature in whichever area you have, whichever scenario you have. And then the color highlight isotherm gives you different options of changing the color balance. So maybe you want white and black, maybe you want orange and blue, or red and blue, or yellow. So whatever works out best for the environment, you can change that too. So you have different ways to play around with the temperature thermography HeatPro cameras. The whole idea is to detect abnormally high temperature and prevent a fire from happening. So it's not the fire department, it's not a fire alarm, but it's a prevention before you get those fire alarm involved, and so on and so forth. So for example, case scenario is within 7 seconds, for example, they found that there was a incident that happened, and there was a pre-alarm that showed up, popped up on the phone, popped up on the monitoring station, on the Hike Central Professional, on the NVR, wherever you want it set up, and then off you go. Tell someone to go with the fire extinguisher, prevent it from getting bad, right? That's your fast warning, non-contact. So say you have something far away, big warehouse, and you know that one section of this warehouse, or even if you have a dumpster location on a building far away, put a PTZ camera there so you can see what kind of activities happen there. If you know there's vandalism there, and now it'll actually detect the start off of a fire or smoke, and then you can prevent that from happening by calling the superintendent, having his phone ring, so on and so forth as an event. This is the solar farm I was talking about. This is where you see if there's a solar farm and they want to know which panel is getting damaged or not reflecting enough, it's cold in this case, temperature's gone down, it sends you a notification so you can send someone to manage those instead of going over there and doing a whole maintenance check. So much easier just having a visual of both, the HeatPro having the optical as well as the thermal to see what's happening in those fields. So I know when I joined Hikvision, I went with my SDS Kelvin to one of the waste facilities here in Barrie, and we actually implemented this whole scenario. Waste batteries, waste gas cylinders, all these places where you have places where it can catch fire, right? Dumpster locations, bins. Anytime you have this, successful stories all across the world where these thermography HeatPro cameras will detect the fires on site and prevent it from getting really bad. Because if you have worked in any of the waste facilities, you'll know that these things happen so quick and so fast. They explode really quickly. So it's good to prevent it before. Save a lot of money and claims and insurance in the long run. Thank you for your time. And we have an upcoming technology version of the HeatPro happening on the 28th of this month. So make sure to log into that. If you can't, send your technicians so that they can understand how best to configure this and the easeability of how it is to make sure that the HeatPro cameras are put into action. Thanks once again for your time, and I appreciate all your support. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.